Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with your hosts, Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, Amy Luby, and Karl Palachuk. Produced by and for the Small Biz Thoughts technology community. We're dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. By now you've heard of the National Society of IT Service Providers, but why should you join? The NSITSP is committed to transforming our industry into a profession. They've established an industry-wide code of ethics and are working to improve the reputation of IT consultants nationwide. Wherever anybody is talking about IT consultants, NSITSP wants a seat at the table. That includes the media, government regulators, and the general public. Take pride in your industry and show off your membership. Join us today at nsitsp.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast. Today you have Amy Babinchek and James Kernan as your host. How are you doing today, James?
Wonderful, wonderful. How are you, Amy?
Doing well. I am just back from Channel Partners, so I'm fully recovered. And that was quite a show. I've never been to a show that was that large, 8,000 people, and the expo hall was like multi-football fields large. I kept saying, I feel like I'm at the Home and Garden show, where it just goes on and on and on. And, all the booths were like 20 by 20. They were enormous. And
Yeah.
I just have never been to a show that was that large. It was, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, I've talked to several of my clients that had been out there either exhibiting, in that, or at least just attending and listening in, but heard good things about it. That was, it's much larger than I remembered. So good for you for going. So what did you learn when you were there? What were maybe a key takeaway?
My key takeaway, if you're thinking about going to that show as an MSP, I hate to say this publicly, but I don't know if I would recommend it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a larger business event, maybe medium on up.
Yeah.
For the small person, and I did run into a few small MSPs that were there. They were struggling a little bit to find the value of it. Certainly, if you're looking to talk to vendors, I will say that the people in the booth at this event were not your typical running around the country setting up booths. That person was there, but then there was also the VP of business development, the head of marketing, they were also there in the booth because this is really a wheeler dealer kind of show where big deals are going down all over the place. So if you really want to get deep involved with a particular vendor or want to make those other types of connections, this is the show for that, for sure.
Yeah, I've kind of heard the same thing. It's too big and too much, and for the average MSP, it probably wouldn't be the best show in the world. But some of those shows you can get lost. And somebody even said they thought there were more vendors there than attendees. Kind of a CompTIA feel, but those
Yeah,
are.
it does have a CompTIA feel to it for sure.
Yeah.
It's operating at that VP level.
Yeah.
But the expo hall, I mean, anybody who's in that expo hall, it was multi-football fields large.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in our industry.
Your feet had to hurt walking back and forth through that. So.
Oh my God. But I tell you, definitely, my Apple Watch kept thinking I was doing a workout. It was like, seems like you're doing a workout. Would you like to record this? And I'm just walking half a mile down the down the hallway.
You always walk a lot in Vegas, that's for sure. But I think you walked extra miles for that. A couple of people I asked that question to told me they had over 20,000 steps.
Oh yeah,
that's
easily.
A lot. Yeah.
Easily. In the vendor hall, though, they did make sure to ply you with alcohol. I think every third booth was a bar.
Well, that's one way of getting certain people's attention, right?
Right. Yep. You definitely got people into the expo hall for sure.
Well, there's certainly an abundance of shows to go to. There's all sorts of things going on here in Q2. So I know that was a big one. But check out Karl's newsletter. He does a good job of listing out what events are coming up month over month. So I think my next one I'm attending is MSP GeekCon down in Orlando. I think that's the 21st and 22nd of May. And then I've got my mastermind event out in Denver, Colorado. I'm real excited about that. That should be a lot of fun. It's very end of June. So I try not to travel too much.
This industry has no lack of opportunities for learning and, and networking, for sure. We're very blessed that way.
So
Or
Amy, a minute ago, you were talking about one of the other things that you learned at the event. I think you went to a marketing session. You want to share that? That was pretty cool.
I did. I went to a marketing session that was different. It was about AI and marketing, and it's definitely the hot topic. And you see a lot about, how AI can generate your blog posts for you, how it can generate your, your Facebook posts, your LinkedIn posts. It can, just do all the work for you, right? Um, and but what this was really about how media itself, newspapers, bloggers, writers, all this kind of thing, um, how they're dealing with AI and what the ethics are behind it. Um, and there's a couple of large consortiums that were highlighted, and they talked about uh, um, how the copyright laws have to deal with AI. Because the copyright laws say that you have to have generated the majority of the material and added your own creativity to it in order to copyright it. So imagine that impact today, right? So if you write an article, if you write a book, if you write a blog post, um, and you generated that with AI, you are not actually the owner of that material, right? It's like immediately in the public domain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot to think about how these things are changing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then how you would prove it, right? If you wrote this with AI or used AI, how would you prove that yes, you used AI, but you also made a significant contribution? And
Right.
so some of the ethics things they were talking about was um, documenting the prompts, the questions that you ask the AI to help you generate this article or this white paper or whatever it is, and documenting what those are. And then that allows the reader to actually, see what was created by AI, what was created by you, what your biases might be in the way that you prompted the AI, and which of the AIs that you use to assist in the article. So there's a big push to sort of have that level of transparency, which I think is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. More and more people are wanting to use, Chat GBT and just AI in general to help create content for them. But a lot of because I work with a lot of different marketing vendors and content creators, and the general feel I have coming from them is it's like, well, AI can't speak in their voice. If they're creating, and it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? And then just to elaborate, it's your personality. And a lot of content that I've seen from AI, it's good. And I like statistical articles, and it's kind of seems like that's a lot of what you see AI create, but it doesn't really have opinions or voices or personalities.
It's
And
very dry, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's very dry. And I think that's what makes us different and unique. And that's what people do business with people. So just keep that in mind, and I think in your marketing message. But that's interesting. I had a question. Did they elaborate on you needed to make a significant contribution? Is that the adjective they used in order
Uh,
for you to claim what's significant? Is that more than 50%? Is it 25%? Is it 75?
I don't know the answer to that, and I might pursue her to be one of our smart people interviews
Yeah.
down the line here, because I think I have a lot more questions, and sounds like you do too. So
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners do as well. It's an amazing topic.
5 minutes with a smart person, caught up with my brother Manuel. So he actually is one of the smarter people I've met in my life. So, and I've known him his entire life. Hey, this is Karl. I am with my brother Manuel, who just happens to be a smart guy. So we're going to do 5 minutes with a smart guy. And I have a question you probably don't want to answer because you don't know that you can answer it in 5 minutes. So talk to me about the nebulous blob. What is the nebulous blob and why should I care?
So the nebulous blob is probably one of the coolest tools that any MSP could use. Imagine if you took and dumped a report out of your PSA of every ticket that's still in the system with its age, its born on date, and its age, and how many hours you've logged against it. And then you put it into a simple splatter chart. And what you'd find is that most new tickets have no time on them. They're only a few hours old, are crowded down in the lower left-hand corner. But as you move up, they get older as time, or they get hours added to them, they move up. And as they get older, now they've been sitting there for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, they get older, they move to the right. So the splatter chart would show you all the tickets and this nebulous blob of tickets in your system. And what you would find is you've got a bunch of what I call rogues out on the right that are just old ass tickets, 100, 300, 400 days old. You got tickets that have got 20 hours on them. Those are called time rogues. They move up. But when you got a ticket that's really loaded in hours and it's really old, it's a super rogue. And so think about it like Darth Vader, right? If you don't know, you got to go look up that reference. But at the end of the Star Wars movie, and I don't think I'm ruining this for anyone, Darth Vader goes rolling off into space and his ship is just hurling. And if somebody had gone and gotten that rogue,
There would be
another movie, right?
There would be no more movies.
Right. But all your work would be at hand in this small. So the goal is for the nebulous blob is to say, I don't really want to have any ticket more than 45 days old or more than, I don't know. And you set the boundary. I think 30 to 45 days is the max and more than 10 hours. So when you see all the tickets that are outside of there, those are all the stinky tickets that nobody wants to deal with, that the customer's not getting back to us on, that don't even matter because that laptop doesn't exist anymore. They're the ones that your techs stress about. It is the cause of their anxiety. If you get that nebulous blob in order and constrained, you would be unbelievable how well your service delivery would run. And it's a powerful tool.
And there's many pieces of it that reflect back on your company, right? Some of those tickets, a lot of those tickets are there because they're waiting for the owner to approve the invoicing. So they also represent a lot of unbilled labor, or somebody just forgot about it and nobody cares anymore. And like you said, the machine doesn't exist anymore. The client doesn't exist anymore. Right?
So there's a term for it. It's called technical debt. Every one of those is technical debt accruing interest, and you will pay that technical debt and the interest one way or the other. Why? Because some poor tech has got to go figure out, even a service coordinator's got to go make a phone call and figure out whether that even matters anymore. And some of them that have too many hours, my favorite thing is, like, if it's got 20 hours on this ticket, just call HP, buy a new laptop, install it, and take the other one and drop it in the river. Right? Problem solved. It doesn't get 25 hours, 27 hours, 28 hours, because we haven't figured out how to fix it. It's technical debt, and the interest is compound interest, right?
Right. So it's funny. So in my cloud services in a month, I talk about doing a deep issue massage, going through all of those tickets and fixing them all. This one proofreader on cloud services in a month just kept looking at this, and every time she saw deep issue massage, she would say, "Oh, you must mean deep tissue massage," which she would correct it again and again and again. So,
the editor's doing this.
The proofreader, yeah. So I'm like, no. Like you're actually reading the book, but you're not getting the message. So anyway, the thing is, somebody's got to take care of that on a weekend, right? But once it's taken care of, and it might take you 50 hours to clean it all out, but once it's clean, you got your arms around your service board, and now it's less than an hour a week to stay up, because it's always easier to stay up than it is to keep up.
The whole reason that we mentioned that the nebulous blob is it puts it in pictorial form, graphical form, where you go, oh my goodness, all of those out to the right are rogues. We need to, and so you do the deep issue massage and find out which are valid. There's a whole bunch are still 300 days old, 200 days old, 100 day old. Some are still 10 hours getting older. And yeah, it's an easy tool. Email me if you're interested. I'll send you a copy of the spreadsheet. It's pretty straightforward.
All right, very good. So why don't you give your website? We'll send everybody there.
Okay, well, if you can spell my name, it's manuelpalachuk.com. No spaces, no hyphens, no dashes, no dots. And my email is even easier. It's manuel@palachuk.com.
And this is the 21st century, so people can just begin to search for Palachuk and it'll pop up.
There's a good chance that, here's the best part. It doesn't matter if they search for me or you, they're going to find both of us. Right? And a few others scratch up.
All right, thanks for being with us today. And with luck, I will talk to you very soon.
Great, thank you.
I know you said you're working with a lot of social media marketing companies, but what do you think's going on with, like, how many MSPs out there are actually using it? Certainly vendors are using it.
Yeah, vendors are using it. Most of the MSPs, at least in my community that I work with, I would say most every one of them have some type of social media presence as a window or lead magnets to kind of pull people into their website or into their funnels. So the ones I see them use most often, believe it or not, are still really LinkedIn, more of a professional community, and then Facebook and Instagram. Not very many on Twitter, but that was kind of a question that has come up lately with all the changes going on with Elon Musk as he bought Twitter. There's more and more changes happening where they created the subscriptions for the high-end users, and then there's been all sorts of other announcements. But I'm just curious out there in the listening audience, how many of you use Twitter or plan to continue to use Twitter as part of your social media strategy? And I've seen some people do really well with it, but most in my circles, don't really use that. What are you seeing on your site, Amy?
I don't see people using Twitter or any of the alternatives to Twitter, at least for marketing purposes. But as far as outreach to clients for my MSP, I don't see them there, right? I do see them on LinkedIn and I see them on Facebook, but I don't see them on Reddit. I don't see them on Twitter. I don't see my potential clients there at all.
That's interesting. Just in my business, I use it, for brand awareness and for a variety of things, but really to stay relevant and educate the audience. But I do a lot on LinkedIn and then Facebook and Instagram. Probably more LinkedIn and Facebook than anything. And it's just, I don't know. To me, social media marketing is fun, but you want to help edutain. We always call it help educate and entertain, right? If that's even a word. But I enjoy social media marketing. The funny thing is when you say brand awareness, most people like glaze over. It's like, well, Coca-Cola does that and McDonald's can afford to do that, but what MSP can afford, a brand campaign? And really all you're trying to do is just warm up the audience. So when you do call them, on a cold campaign, it's no longer cold. They've heard about you or they've seen you out on social media. That's really the whole intent. And or in some cases they'll raise their hand and they'll respond to something that you put out there. That happens to me a lot. So,
right.
But it takes time.
Yeah, that's my whole approach to marketing for MSP. I have one of my peer groups is focused on growth, and um, our main message, if there's one single message we can boil it down to, is that MSPs generally, especially the small ones, um, we don't have salespeople. We're not good salespeople in the traditional sense. We can't have a cold lead handed to us and turn it into anything.
Mhm.
We need marketing that generates warm leads, and brand awareness is how you generate those warm leads. It's somebody who's heard from you, and they're reaching out to you, after you have put materials out there and created that environment where now want to reach out to you, right? They feel comfortable. You've set the environment up where those warm prospects are gonna come in and want to speak to you now.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a MSP owner, we can close a deal if they're ready to buy. We can sell ourselves and close the deal, but we're
Mhm.
not good at convincing people that they need to buy from us, right? If you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just meet somebody and be like, oh, you need to get rid of that guy and start working with me. We're not good at that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true, and most MSP business owners are the same way. If they get eyeball to eyeball with someone who's interested, normally their close rate is pretty good, other
yeah,
than trying to talk to someone cold. I've always said, the best marketing campaign that everybody should have on their marketing plan is a referral program. And whether you know, to me, a great referral program is just one that you ask for referrals from your favorite customers, and you don't need to compensate them. Just write them a thank you note and say thank you when you get a referral. But
I'm glad you said that about the compensation, because I've always felt the same way.
yeah,
I think small business owners are happy to help other small business owners.
they really are. And I mean, this happened to me more than once. But when I was running my MSP in San Diego, at the end of each year, I would always print out and do a 3-year comparison of my top, 25 accounts and how much revenue. And I always compare year over year. And the last year I did that exercise, I remember looking, and there was a leasing company that was a client of mine, but I did a ton of business with and brought them a lot of leads. We had a great relationship. Really, we were friends. And they did equipment leasing, and what was it? 5 of my top 10 accounts revenue wise, okay, 5 of my top 10 were referrals from him.
Mm,
And
nice.
it honestly was amazing. And I remember I tried to send him like a gift card. I forget what, a gift card or a plant basket. And he kind of called and was upset. And he said, "Hey, we're friends. I just want to see you do well. I don't want any compensation. You don't have to give me any money.
Right.
I just want to help you out." So couldn't agree with you more. And I guess on purpose, that's why I said a thank you card. Everybody thinks they've got to do, let me send the most expensive iPad or the coolest, gadget or gadget. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Just an old fashioned thank you will go a mile, and let them know what happened,
Right.
with the referral. So,
It's
you
like
know,
I always say, this is a people business. We have some technical expertise, but in the end, it's about people.
yeah, yeah.
And that brings me to something that you wanted to talk about. What's going on out there with M&A?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It seemed like there's always a lot of activity in the M&A marketplace. And it's interesting the approaches. Most MSP business owners, when I talk to them about M&A, they're like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I get these emails once a week from someone wanting to buy my business, and I just delete them. I'm sick of them." And what I'm seeing more and more of is people, instead of just a general solicitation, but they are representing someone, and they kind of send out like a one-page brochure with all the key stats on the business. and just saying that the latest one I saw was kind of interesting to me because I haven't seen this approach before, where it wasn't like, hey, it's a $8 million MSP in the Southwest part of the United States and a 50-50 balance of services and, product revenue with an average gross profit of X, Y, and Z, 10 employees. They didn't say that. It had some of that, but it kind of listed out what their monthly recurring revenue was, the total number of contracts they had, and then they said they're entertaining offers. And they didn't want to have multiple conversations with people. They just said, what would you value this business at, and how would you pay for it? And I've never seen that approach because obviously they got a lot of responses. And there was a client that I was working with that, we're still having conversations with these folks, and it is a broker that's representing them. But I don't know. There's a lot of M&A activity happening, but that's one interesting approach that I've not seen before. Have you run into that before, Amy?
I have not.
Mhm.
That's an interesting one. Speaking of the Channel Partners Conference, I had a good conversation with somebody who was having trouble with M&A, and the thing was troubled him was that he wasn't getting the success rate on closing deals that he wanted. He was a buyer, and as we talked about it, I realized that he was really missing that personal component. And so, I'm surprised by the, hey, what would you value this business at? Because that's kind of a little impersonal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's we've talked about this before, but it's people do business with people, and it's always an interesting thing being a finance major in school. You never see people on someone's balance sheet. It's only physical, tangible inventory. But to me, one of the most important assets is really the people. It's the people that the skill sets they have, the relationships that they have. And that I was on a EOS implementation call earlier this morning with a client, and we were talking about growth by acquisition, and that people are an important way of adding to your leadership team. So it's kind of come up in that instance as well. And that client really hadn't thought of it that way, thinking of their 3-year goals in that exercise. But yeah, and you've had some experience in there. What else are you seeing, if anything, here in the M&A area?
The activity level still seems to be pretty high. I continue to be of the belief that all of this talk in the media about recession is maybe a little overblown. Certainly some industries like the banking industry
Mhm.
obviously is having an issue, but it doesn't seem to be widespread. I just heard the jobs report. There's more job openings than ever, and the GDP is up, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of mixed signals. I'm hoping that this might be a sector focused recession that's coming up and not something that's widespread through the economy. Everybody I talk to, from any of my MSP clients to other MSPs, is all telling
Mhm.
me business is booming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody's doing well, even though there's a lot of pessimism in the media. So there's a real disconnect between reading the news and reality for people right now.
Yeah. At least in our channel for sure. I mean, unless you're, an Amazon or a Microsoft, those are the organizations seem like, laying off people. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's there is a huge disconnect from what you're seeing in the media and talking, one-on-one with the, even the vendors and, the average MSP. They're all reporting thumbs up activity, pipelines are up, and revenues are up. So um, that's an interesting point. I didn't really think of it, being more of a a siloed recession, but some of the economic indicators are still bad. But from again what I'm hearing and seeing, it's all positive, really. So then you go to channel partners and see 8,000 people there. It's like, oh, okay, everybody's doing fine, right?
Oh, oh my gosh. And if you went out onto the sidewalk in Vegas, it was more crowded than I've ever seen it.
Yeah,
So certainly Vegas is not experiencing any kind of downturn. Vegas is booming.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And especially if people were giving away cocktails at every other booth. Sounds like all the vendors are doing well, and also.
Right.
Uh,
Well, but even just the normal person on vacation in Las Vegas, they they were there. The streets of Las Vegas were jammed. The casinos were jammed. Not just around the. I was staying in a
mhm.
different hotel, so not just around the conference, but everywhere. So, you know, the average person is feeling perfectly comfortable and going on vacation and spending money.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's a good point. That's a good
Vegas
point. And
makes it easy to spend money. So
yeah, yeah,
it's probably a good economic indicator, right? How confident are people? Well, they're willing to go to Vegas and spend money, so pretty
right.
confident.
Consumer confidence is very strong there. No,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
right. Yep, yep, for sure. Well, hey James, we reached the end of another very good episode of the SMB Community Podcast. Um, Thank you for participating today, James, and we will see you next week.
You bet. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.